When it comes to politicians and it comes to them lying about pretty much everything, it it kind of surprises me, but it shouldn't really surprise me, but it still does. That so many people, year after year, election cycle after election cycle, presidential election after presidential election, still believe these lies coming out of these crooked politicians' mouths. It's kind of like everything that they've said and done takes a pass or takes sort of like second seat, and everything that they're talking about that they're gonna do is now way more important than what they said in the past that they were not gonna do. All those lies. And it doesn't really matter who you're talking about. You could be talking about the far left, the far right, the Republicans, the Democrats, whoever. And it doesn't really extend, I've used the politicians in America as an example, but it doesn't really matter whether this is in America or Canada, the UK, some European country, some African country, some Asian country. It doesn't really matter because this is universal across the world. I want to say maybe there are a few honest exceptions. Maybe, I don't know. I've yet to see them. And so this is obviously tailored towards the Western politicians, the Western European political segment, which is just crooked and evil because people lie all the time. Here's something that baffles me because I was talking about how these politicians lie and lie and lie again, but it is like people don't really care. It is like you've forgotten the lies that happened 5 years ago. 5 years ago, we were in the midst of a so-called pandemic. Remember that? I remember it very well. And this is kind of like it never existed. I think actually, let me think. Today, as the time of the recording, is March the 4th. I believe it was March 14th that the entire world got shut down. So in 10 days, it's the 6th year. I wanted to say 5, but no, it's really the 6th year anniversary of the entire world basically shutting down over some sniffles. And, talking about these politicians and listening to what they're saying now and sort of like dodging and avoiding this topic and this subject, it's just mind-boggling. And it's even more mind-boggling that nobody else is talking about this. Nobody else is talking about this. They don't really care. People don't care. People have checked out. They really have. And this is the major point that I'm getting at here. When people have checked out, when people don't really care, when they've sort of like lost all hope, when they're in the, dark bottom, whatever it is, then these politicians can roam free and do whatever they want as they please, whenever they please. That's the problem. And from a persuasion perspective and standpoint, this is so interesting because it kind of really means that these politicians can say and do just about anything and people still don't care. How do you demoralize a population so bad that it stops really caring? Well, if you go back and you watch, what's the name of the guy? Some Soviet defector who did a series of interviews and lectures during the 1980s and I think 1990s as well. Yuri Bezmenov. I believe that was his name. I don't think he's alive anymore. But he defected from the Soviet Union. He became an American citizen, I think, or he defected to America, basically. And he was talking about how the Soviet Union's plan was to demoralize the country that is the United States of America, and probably Western countries as well, from inside. You demoralize. You make people stop believing in institutions. You make people stop believing in their own countries. And so when they don't believe in their own countries anymore, then you've sort of like won, because now they're easily programmable. Now they can listen to outside influence. And that's, I guess, modern 5G warfare, if you want to call it that. Now, there are so many rabbit holes to go down here, and I'm really gonna have to restrain myself from getting too lost in the weeds. But let's just say that when you have people, or when you have politicians who time and time again, make these weird promises, these empty promises that have no substance, that you sort of like know it's just pork. They're just greasing the bill with pork, essentially. I'm not going to say that they're outright lying, but they're giving you these blown up promises that nobody really thinks that they can fulfill. And people still believe in them. I mean, look at what's happened to, excuse me, let me reverse that. Look at what's happened to America. All of a sudden, they voted in some president who said he wasn't going to war, and now he's bombing the whole world, it appears like. So much for that promise, right? Here's what you have to understand, though. And again, I'll do my best not to get too lost in the conspiracy theories and rabbit holes and so on. But yeah, there are free elections, and there are also tampering going on. Just think about it. If you have millions of ballots, millions of votes, how easy isn't it just to sneak away 100 there, add 100 there? In certain places, I've heard you can't even use voter ID. You can't even use ID to vote. I mean, do you think we're dumb? Maybe some people are dumb. Like Joe Rogan said, some people are running around with 12-volt brains. Somebody. But most people actually are not. They've just checked out. Which means that from a persuasion perspective and standpoint, it's so easy to gain, let's call it market share. When people don't believe you anymore, that's when you can spread all of your propaganda and nasty stuff and really take everything for yourself. Bottom line is, all the politicians you like, all the politicians you dislike, all the politicians you don't care about, with a few exceptions, of course, but they're far and few in between, they're crooks and liars. They're just gonna lie. Focus on yourself. Build a better life for yourself. Don't trust in a politician to do so for you. If you want to learn more about persuasion and sales, especially for a business, then get subscribed to my email list. The link to do so is in the episode description wherever you're watching or listening to this, and I'll see you there.